They use each other. Yeah. That's what I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome back. Yeah, such lovingly made savories and tea. We all needed that. Anyway, now we want to know how can we change our memories, right? Again, before going into how the tools, let us go a little bit deeper into some more neuroscience principles before we go into the tools. We need to understand a bit about our own brain and mind. Yeah. I know there are many medical professionals here. If your medical school is like US, you would have studied neuroanatomy for one whole year or one whole semester. In India, I think they don't study that deeply, is what I know of. But in US, we study neuroanatomy for one whole semester. But here, I'm going to put it into very, very simplistic way of classifying the brain. So anybody, even a child, can understand so that we can implement all the principles that we have learned based on this classification. So very simply, if we can classify brain into just two parts, again, no Greek or Latin, just plain English, higher center and lower center. Higher center is the part of the brain that is just beneath this skull of ours. And this, the part that makes us all human. In other words, this is the part which makes a CEO, the chief executive officer, which makes all decisions, right? Everything, all decisions are made by, or I should say, should be made by this the part. However, many a times the lower center of the brain takes over. Or I would, if I have to say with respect to mind rather than the brain, yes, for most of the things, it is the lower center of the brain should take over, because it's the lower center that actually regulates our blood pressure, our blood glucose levels, our body temperature, all the parts of the brain that regulates all these parameters and controls our breathing, our heart rate. All of that is from this lower center of the brain. And now let us jump from brain, structure of the brain, to mind itself. And if you have to simply compare brain to this computer, brain is like hardware of the computer, and mind is like the softwares that we use. So the type of mind that emanates from the higher center of the brain, we call it as conscious mind, or the rational mind, or the willful mind. In Sanskrit, we can just call that as very simply buddhi. We have heard the term buddhi, right? Intellect. This is the type of mind that is emanated from the higher center of the brain. Whereas from the lower center of the brain is our habitual mind, our emotional mind, our non-conscious mind. People also call that as subconscious mind. I prefer to call that as non-conscious mind. As I said earlier, the higher brain is supposed to be ruling us. Many a times, it's our lower brain, lower center of the brain, or the habitual mind takes over. And we keep listening to this habitual mind or the non-conscious mind. The reason the higher center of the brain or the conscious mind is what makes us human is because this is where the powers of our conscious mind, or the functions of our conscious mind, or the qualities of our conscious mind, like the free will I talked about, the choice, any choice that we need to make. And then we have to make the decision, right? Making the decision based on what is good and what is not. That is the discerning power, or the discrimination power, to know what is good and what is not. So free will, discerning power, and also our willpower. We know about the willpower is also coming from this higher center or the conscious mind. And not only the free will, the self-awareness that again we talked about. Whatever is happening in our mind, we need to be able to figure out the negative thoughts that we get. Not our sister, not our father or our teacher, our professor telling us, why are you being so negative? We should be able to find out our own type of thoughts and feelings that we are getting. That is nothing but that self-awareness. So I've already listed free will, discerning power, willpower, self-awareness, and the power to focus, concentration power. We understand this concentration power. It's equally important to know the defocusing power. This is where many at times people with addiction have a problem of defocusing from something. As much as focusing power is important, we need to know how to focus, on what to focus. That is the discerning power. But we should be able to take away our mind from whatever we are doing and put our mind on something else right away. That focusing and defocusing, both are so equally important when people are addicted, especially to this. They lose that power of defocusing. And also, of course, other things like the discerning power, what is good for me in short term, what is good for me in long term, what is bad for me. They're not able to figure it out. The discerning power is also lost. And the willpower. Again, in willpower, I also say, they have willpower. People say, people who have some type of addiction, or it could be even people with ADD or ADHD. We think they don't have the power to concentrate. See, they definitely have the power to focus. But what is it that they are focusing on? Contents of focus is very important. And especially either adults or kids who go through ADD and ADHD, they are not able to focus the way you and I are able to focus. They have a different way that we need to learn as parents, as educators. We need to learn how to help them focus in particular ways. We only know one way, a classical way, traditional way of teaching kids. And because some of the kids are not able to focus in the way we teach them, we put them in the category of ADD and ADHD. I'm not saying the medicines that are needed is not good, not correct, they should not be taking, none of that. If there is a need, they have to take, which will help them focus. But just taking medicine is not going to be enough. If, as educators, we need to figure out ways and means how we can teach to many different types of kids. Not all kids will learn a particular way. So that's a separate thing. That's, again, I'm trying to introduce different ways and concepts wherein we can be of help through this center. And anybody has any kind of interest in any of this, we can contact our organizers. And also, I'm going to be here for some more time. If anybody wants to come and meet me at a personal level, you may certainly do so.
Sorry to disturb you, but just now you used some acronyms. The doctors may be knowing that, but the other people, common people, can you expand that?
That's right. ADD and ADHD is what I mentioned. It is nothing but attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactive disorder, which we see in many kids, especially in US. And these days, it is getting worse, as a matter of fact, because of the influence of the technology. But apart from that, the kids, they are hyperactive. They have lots of energies. We need to be able to channelize that energy in a proper way. And they have so much focusing power. They can spend literally hours together on what they like. It's not that they do not have the power to focus. We need to be able to figure out a way that they will be able to learn from the way they are able to focus, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Swamiji, for that. And there are many different angles we can handle all of that, not just through the mainstream, the way the medical professionals would deal with the medicine. Yes, that is the way. And many other things, we can talk about it at an individual level if need be. So coming back to this classification of brain and mind, see, the memories are stored in many different regions of the brain, not just in the lower center, not just in the higher center, both in the lower center of the brain and in the higher center of the brain. Especially what we were talking about, when we talked about what is a memory, and then you said it's the image that gets etched in. Not just the image, it gets triggered from a feeling or a thought. Whenever it is a conscious thought, when you actually see, it comes from the frontal lobe. And if it's an image, it comes from the visual cortex. And if it is a particular sound, it comes from the auditory cortex. In other words, memory is not stored in one part of the brain, but many different parts. This, we can take it to our advantage when we are learning something. We can be reading it loud, and then underlying things, and then writing. So different regions of the brain get stimulated. So by law of association through a trigger, if I can say, different real estate of the brain is used to store even one particular memory of an incident. So this is one of the reasons why it becomes so difficult to come out of some traumatic memory, negative memory. If that is the case, the positive aspect of that is when we try to remember, it's also law of association. We try to remember the name connected with some meaning to that, or the appearance of a person when we are trying to remember the name, or where we met that person, or the smell, what is the perfume the person was wearing at that time, was using. Sometimes that will trigger depending on what type of a person we are. So we can both use it for the positive aspect of remembering things, but the very same memory storage can also hurt us when it is deeply stored, especially with respect to traumatic memories. So, and law of association and the Hebbian law that would go together. I was talking about how we are going to understand why it is so tough to come out of some of the, especially traumatic memories, is because, as I said, different regions of the brain, different stimuli get stored. It could be visual in one part of the brain, sound from another part, and then some appearance from a different part. And the neurons from these regions of the brain, they actually get activated when we have to trigger a memory, when we have to remember something. Neurons from many different regions of the brain get activated, and they also wire together. The neurons that fire together, fire means they're getting activated. When we remember things, the neurons or the brain cells will make different electrochemical changes. And not only that, different regions from different neurons from different regions of the brain, they also come together in the, if I may say, nothing but a connection of neuronal circuits. This is what we call it as hard wiring happens. This is where, whether it is a habit or a memory that gets stored, with one trigger, it comes out and it is already hardwired. The neuronal circuit gets triggered, and then we will be able to remember it so quickly. So that is the power of the Hebbian law, which says neurons that fire together, wire together. So we need to break those circuits. And how we're going to do that, we will see that in a little while. So how do we change the memories? I like this quote again by Bernard Shaw. He says, progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. It's all about changing, whether changing memories. Now we know it is about changing our mind. We saw that memories are thoughts. Memories are present thoughts of previous experience. Memories are feelings. Memories are present feelings of the past experience. So it's all in the mind. If we do not change our minds, we cannot change anything at all, is what he says. And of course, that mind, we say memories, thoughts, and feelings. In a very simplistic way, we can say nothing changes until our mind changes, right? And in particular, with respect to memories, let us focus on the feelings. Because as I keep saying, feelings are long lasting, and feelings get expressed at the level of the body. Whereas thoughts are fleeting, they can change very quickly. These memories get stored in the form of feelings. Not only just feelings get expressed at the level of the body, we will keep listening to our body, as I was telling you earlier about the addiction problem. Any traumatic event, without our knowledge, we store these things in different parts of our bodies. For some people, it's the neck, pain in the neck. Right? Where do we get that from? We can remember that. Or many a times it is our back, or it affects our GI system. Something or other, we store these memories at the level of the body through. Because we will see how it affects. Whenever we go through the traumatic experience, all of a sudden our knee hurts even more than the previous day. Without our knowledge, this is happening. Again, it is connected to the feelings, because feelings are expressed at the level of the body. So we will focus on the feelings and how to change our feelings.
Sorry to disturb you, Mother. What is the difference between feeling and emotions?
It's a very unscientific way of saying emotions and feelings are the same, but there is no particular way of differentiating emotions and feelings. And from a scientific perspective, we can just say both are the same. We use it in a free manner. That's also it's a great question. Even for scientists, just like I was saying, if I have to ask, people did ask years back, what is a thought? If to define thought, it is so hard to define thought. Scientifically, we can define, but in an English plain sentence, without the word thinking, it is hard to define. In a similar manner, we use these things very loosely, even in science, emotions and feelings. That's why I prefer to use feelings a whole lot more, because we understand about the feelings a lot more than emotions. So, but just changing our mind is not enough, but we need to be able to change the brain itself. If Bernard Shaw says changing mind is what is needed, I say as a neuroscientist, just changing our mind is not enough, because we can change our mind in a flippant manner. We know we had so many choices there. We had juice, we had tea, and we had water. We could change our mind and then choose one or the other. But flippantly changing our mind is not going to be enough. But we need to be able to change our mind in a particular way so that it changes the very structure of the brain. And how does this happen? This is where, again, science comes to the rescue and helps us. And this I'm going to tell you like an anecdote or a story to make it a little bit more interesting. This is present Dalai Lama. He challenged the neuroscientists, the Western neuroscientists, saying that, if you want to change your life, you have to change your brain. And if you have to change your brain, you have to change your mind, he said. And Western neuroscientists didn't buy into that. Changing life, let's keep it that way. Let's just take changing brain and mind. If something happened to the brain, then the mind would change, but not the other way around, is what the neuroscientists, Western neuroscientists thought a couple of decades back. Because they were looking at the brain very in a simplistic manner, like as a computer. If something happened to the software, nothing will happen to the hardware. If something bad happened to the hardware, it might affect the software, right? That's exactly how they were looking at. So the Dalai Lama posed another challenge. Oh, you're not believing me? So I'm going to pose one more challenge, saying that you are scientists. You use this as a hypothesis and test it out. There are so many technology that is available right now. Test it out. And if what I say is wrong, I'm going to go back and change the Buddhist texts, psychology text. And where did the Buddhist texts come from? It's an offshoot of our Hindu scriptures, right? And he said, if I'm correct, then you have to change the scientific textbooks. At that time, not only did he pose this challenge, he also sent many of the Buddhist monks to Europe and US, the monks who had many, many years of meditative experience, starting from 5,000 to 10, 20, 30,000 hours of meditative experience. May I ask why meditative experience? Why the monks were sent? Because what is meditation? It is about training our mind. If you train your mind through meditation in a particular way, your brain, the structure and function of the brain itself changes. That is how our lives change. So he sent many Buddhist monks, and the brains of the Buddhist monks, like the one that you see here, is actually a French molecular biologist by name Matthew Ricard. He's now turned into a Buddhist monk, and he, along with him, there were many, many monks that were sent. And the brains of these Buddhist monks were compared to non-meditative control groups of people. And the brains were compared. And the technology that was used, not the regular CT scan or MRI, but functional MRI scans, SPECT scans, PET scans, wherein you could study the functioning of the brain over a period of time. Longitudinal study, you could do that and see how different regions of the brain were active. By, if you just look at those pictures, you will see different colored lights, different regions of the brain being activated, depicted by different colors in those scans. So when that happened, they were able to see clear-cut differences in the brains of the Buddhist monks when compared to the non-meditative control groups of brains. And there are thousands and thousands of papers. Instead of going to either a few, I have condensed all of that for us to be able to understand, and not just understand, but to be able to implement that in our day-to-day lives. And the results would go through this. So changing in our mind, training our mind means changing our thoughts, right? If we change our thoughts, or our feelings, or our mind in a particular way, not in a flippant manner, in an effortful, willful, conscious ways, over a period of time, the structure and the function of the brain itself changes. The caveat here is just changing the mind in a particular way is not the end all. We can do that. We can be meditating for years and years. We can do that. Still, that is not going to be enough, because whatever our thoughts and feelings have changed, that has to result in the change in our experience, change in our habits, change in our actions. Then only, and only then, will there be long-lasting changes in our structure and function of the brain that is happening, and so in our lives. This is where you will see, I used to go to many, many meditation retreats in US, and people many times would say or ask questions. I've been meditating for this many years, but I still haven't lost my temper. I have been meditating, but I still cannot get over my animosity towards this kind of people. They would come out and ask, because just thinking positively is not going to be enough. And those positive thoughts have to be followed by positive feelings. And again, just thinking positively, feeling positively is not going to be enough. It has to be followed by positive actions, positive habits, positive experiences in our lives. Until and unless that happens, there won't be long-lasting changes in the structure and function of the brain, so our lives cannot change.
Sorry, Benji. Okay, I want to know,
how do you, let's go back to our story of the hijack. Okay? Now I know I am approaching that corner. And immediately, as you say, your body becomes tense and you start looking around because you know. So how do I now tell my brain, no, that happened 6 months ago. It's not going to happen now. How do I then do it? It's here, it's easy, as you said. But how do I practice it? Because it's automatically a reflex action.
Absolutely.
That I am immediately going to tense up and I'm going to start looking around. So how do I tell myself, no, change it. It happened then. It's not going to happen now. Start thinking about God and drive through. Or how do I tell myself, don't think about it?
Hold on for a few minutes. I have a process how to change these memories, taking exactly, I'll take your own example and then I'll go through how do we do that. Okay. So this change that happens, the structure and function of the brain, this change, technical term for that is neuroplasticity. I will get to that. It's very important what you're asking. You're absolutely right. It is automatic. You cannot stop at that time, but we have to stop some other time, bringing that experience to a conscious level, that it is not automatic, and then we have to be able to change. I will get to that. I have steps going through that. So the same thing, I've gone a bit deeper to say, changing our mind means changing our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions. Then we can change our brain. When it is done in a particular way, changing in a conscious, willful, effortful ways, and changing our perception, changing our mindset, changing our belief system. That's extremely important. The belief system, until and unless we tackle our belief system, nothing will change. We need to change first our belief system that I can change. First belief system is that I can change, because now it is automatic. When it is automatic, we will not know it is possible for us to change. Now, first we need to believe it is possible to change, and then the rest will follow, which we will see. So changing our beliefs, changing our attitude, and changing our experiences over a period of time will change the structure and function of the brain, and that's how our life itself changes or transforms. This change, as I said, is called neuroplasticity, or when we change, whatever has been hardwired, that automatic response is technical term for that, is hardwired. It is just like whether it is the hijacker in your example or another brother saying something, it is like pushing my emotional button, I will react right away. For the brain, there is no difference between the two. So from hard wiring, we can actually rewire our brains. Again, that hard wiring, if you can go back to that Hebbian law, neurons from many different regions of the brain connect together, forms the neuronal circuits, and that again also connected with law of association. So if we can remember all of this, and then we will get to how do we change that. So that's the very next slide. There it is. You have preempted. Very good. Then how do we change our painful memories? We have covered all the neuroscience precepts and principles. Now, there is only one slide for this. How do we change our painful memories? But for this, for us to accept, I had to go through all of that in an organized, scientific way, bringing you all the concepts to be able to do this. This is the slide that you're looking for. First we need to identify our triggers. We already know our trigger, right? The two people standing in the corner, little bit dark, and the people are wearing dark clothes. All the things that will trigger. So first identify the trigger. And see, bad memories or painful memories, they are not constantly there in our head. It is suppressed. It is suppressed at a subconscious level. So as soon as you see the trigger, it comes about, right? So those memories are cue dependent. Of course, but we cannot avoid two people standing there in the late evening because it is cue dependent. Whereas with others, if it is a fight between siblings, we can be aware and then we can probably change the cue, but not an example that you have given that we don't have any control over that. But something in the present environment, it reminds us of our painful experience and it triggers the recall process. This is what is happening. We know up to now. And what we need to do is to practice in a conscious way, willful way, effortful way. Now we know, you rightly said, it is automatic. And we know that autopilot mode is coming from the lower center of the brain. In other words, there is a region in the lower center of the brain called amygdala that gets activated, and that is what is the trigger there. It is causing fear and anxiety, and everything else results, palpitations, sweaty hands, and whatnot. So we need to practice consciously changing that negative association, and we need to put a positive one. This may not hold good, this example, but I will take another example. I'll come back to your example, another one. If it is something with an interpersonal relationship, something it happens with your daughter, then we have to consciously, because it is in our control. Whereas what you're talking about hijacking, we have no control. I'll come to that. But here, with the things that it is in our control, we have to, it should not run as an autopilot mode. There it was fear with hijacking. Here, yes, still it is the lower center of the brain that gets activated. All the meditation that we do, we have to prepare our lower center to calm down, even in terms of triggers. If we do not have a yardstick to see for ourselves whether whatever I'm doing, the meditation, is it helping me or not, this is one of the reasons we will not know. We will be doing meditation for years and years, just like as I said, in the meditation retreats that I would go, people ask somebody or other, few of the same question every meditation retreat I would go, been doing this, but I'm not seeing enough changes in myself. Or if it's in a workshop that we do, many times it's the family members who would come. She's been going for the workshops and doing mindful breathings, yet I don't see any change at home. So we have to have clear-cut yardsticks. Can give you scientific yardstick, can give you spiritual yardstick. In yesterday's talk, we did give a spiritual yardstick that was given by the 13th president of Ramakrishna Order, saying, are you growing spiritually? Are you being more kind? Are you being more open? Do you see oneness with others? Can you love others? These are the questions he poses to us. We have to answer those questions ourselves in the most honest manner. I'll tell you, at best we'll say, yes, I'm doing, but not all the time. This is how it is for most of us. Why not all the time? As close to all the time can we? Not leave it at that and go deeper. Why is it that I cannot? If we keep going deeper and deeper, we will be able to find the answer. And by the way, that is where we have another talk on neuroscience of meditation. There we can see how can we keep getting the results that we want most of the time. It's again taking the focus away, but it is possible to have yardsticks for whether we are doing meditation. I'm not saying what you should do earlier. At that moment is what we are focusing right now. This is nothing but, without saying any term, I'm saying it's nothing but cognitive behavior training or cognitive behavior therapy. But if it is that a hijack situation, what we need to do is to train ourselves through our breathing exercises, to train ourselves to be able to calm ourselves down either with 3 breaths, ultimately to single breath. But we need to know all the science behind it, then we will be able to do it much easier. Otherwise, it will take a little bit longer time. If we keep practicing the breathing or the meditation exercises, breathing exercises, such that with commanding of a single breath, we can calm down. How? The science behind it is breath is the bridge between our body and mind. As soon as we see the person, the trigger, the danger, our mind goes back to some other time. The body is there at that corner. Mind goes back to a few months back where I was hijacked, right? So the mind is elsewhere, the body is here. As soon as we focus on our breath, both body and mind together in the same place. This is the science behind how we can use breath as a tool to calm us down. As soon as we do that, then we will be alert. I'm not saying we can be just haphazardly or without carelessly go about. That should be the trigger. And we have to know, oh, let me be careful. That is enough. Just checking the car door is enough. That is not wrong. I'm not asking you not to check, but that should not cause the painful effects, the palpitation of the heart, sweaty hands, which a technical term for that again, causing anxiety. That is the difference. But for that to happen, single breath or 3 breaths, we should have trained ourselves other times. Yes.
Would you advocate then for medication? Because like, if somebody's having a panic attack, it's so profound, you've got the chemical responses going. How was they then in that moment starts this process? So would you advocate that they would have to start with medication first, or what other approaches?
It depends. I have helped people who are going through panic attacks even over the phone. At that time, they couldn't take medicine, and they would call me up. Actually, a doctor from a different city where I was in, from Mysore to Bangalore, they would call up, and then I would help them with the breathing. But they would have to go through all of this to be able to, otherwise it becomes faith-based. If they understand what is happening within themselves and they're able to come out, yet they won't be able to come out while they are having the panic attacks, anxiety attacks. At that time, when you take them through the deep breathing exercises, they will be able to calm down. And then they have to again practice themselves at other times.
Is there a breathing technique that one has to use? And I mean, I know with the yoga, you have all the pranayams. So is it one of those pranayams, or could it be just a general breathing technique? What sort of technique would you use at that time?
Again, a great question. Now, because of new neuroscience research on mindfulness, now we call that as mindful breathing, mindfulness tools, as opposed to meditation, because in West, meditation has a religious connotation. So we use the scientific, not because of that. The scientific term is mindfulness. There are many different types of mindfulness techniques. It's almost like a smorgasbord. You know what is a smorgasbord? So we can pick and choose whichever sandwich that you want, right? From a smorgasbord like that. There are many different mindfulness tools. It's like a kit. Depending on what we are looking for, we can pick and choose. We are actually going through, we have already gone through either 2 or 3 of the mindfulness breathing techniques through our 5-part series of mindful living. In 2 days, I think the 4th part of the mindful living series goes on. So there are many different tools for different things. We can choose a different one. If you are stressed out, one type of technique or progressive muscle relaxation. If you just want to really calm down, you're not stressed, but you want to relax even more, maybe a visualization technique and just simple mindfulness breathing technique, or forgiveness meditation, or to be kind to somebody who has hurt us, loving kindness meditation. In fact, if there is time, I can go through that loving kindness meditation in a few minutes at the end. That's what I'm planning. We will see. Did that make sense? No? So it's all about understanding all of that and to be able to practice, not just at that moment. It will never happen. We have to practice beforehand how I have to handle this amygdala, the little part of the brain, almond-shaped part of the brain, to calm down. There are many ways. Breathing is the easiest one. And lastly, to reassociate with a positive and safe experience. It happened once, and so many times the triggers were there, and it was not a bad experience again. And we need to keep remembering the positive experiences, but yet be careful. Any questions before I can go? It's last, whatever, half hour of conclusion. Any questions until now before? Yes.
Just curious about the issue of fatigue. For example, in the morning, you get up, you have an afternoon sleep, your breathing changes, it's deeper, maybe your voice changes, you sound more centered, and then you are very forgiving. Think about something and it's okay. As you get physical, as you get on with your day, as you experience stuff as you go along, your ability to process becomes shallower, opposed to deeper. I would feel like there's a level of fatigue that the brain has that it doesn't want to process. Maybe it's touching on something about breathing, but I think the word fatigue is a very important word where we function and how fatigued we are on a daily basis. How that will change, say, cognitive transformation. How is that?
Yeah, I didn't touch upon this. There is another subject I take up about art and science of wellness, and then we do touch upon fatigue, but I'll give you a shorter answer. Fatigue can be 2 types, physical and mental fatigue. If it is physical fatigue, all we need to do is to take rest, physical rest. But the mental fatigue that happens could be because of different reasons. One mainly is because if we are doing something that we don't like, we become mentally fatigued very easily. So we always say, like what you do, or do what you like. That is the first thing. If we cannot do what we like, at least we should like what we do. Just that simple formula is enough not to become mentally fatigued.
Philosophically, I accept that. But the lives we live often don't let us do everything that we love all the time.
Correct. That's why we have to like what we do.
That is the challenge.
No, honestly, it is not worth our lives to spend 8 or 10 hours in a working environment if we don't like it. Of course, we cannot leave it right away. But if we know this, we should be able to make plans, not just leave right away. Whatever it takes, if we have to get better in getting a different job, we have to be prepared. It isn't worth doing something that we hate. Only time it is worth is we really need that paycheck. So we're going to put up with that until I get the different job.
I don't think this is necessarily career-wise. I think that's the reason why I'm in this workshop. Because as a South African, I feel traumatized with daily level. I feel a traffic light presents a form of danger. We live in a particular, everyone in this room knows exactly what I'm talking about. So that's why I'm here.
Okay.
And so I think it's a bit more than just, I might even understand what you're saying. But I think on one level, I'm saying it's a deeper problem than just changing the job.
Right. I got it. But usually when people ask this question, for me, it is their job that is bothering them. That is why I took that. I'm glad you expanded that. I learned something here because of this culture. Then all we can do is to be as careful as possible. And what else can we do? Nothing else. We have to be on top of things as much of safety, being safe as possible. And have that faith in ourselves. Because we cannot live out of fear. And every person that we see at the traffic light, we cannot think he's a thief, he's gonna hijack and whatnot. Once when you leave the house or you get into the car, make yourself safe as much as possible. If not, make sure you make it even more safe, whichever way it is. That is the best we can do, right? What is the difference between that person at the traffic light and when you go on the road? Anything can happen, and not because of my mistake of driving, somebody else's mistake of driving, I can get into an accident. Can I be so fearful and afraid and traumatic to be thinking about it? That is where it is not about the external things. It is about how we are reacting to the external triggers and dangers. We need to understand and change ourselves and be ready to be able to face any danger rather than be fearful. Because who is it who said, most of the fears that whatever we are afraid of never happens. 99% of the fears that we go through never ever happens. But we live in that fear. This is where that law of association, you have to break that. Every corner, somebody is there. He's going to hijack me because he's in wearing torn jeans and dark glasses. This is how 42 years back when I went to US, and people told me, you have to be really careful going through these areas. These are not safe areas. Until then, I was fine. I was driving in the same area, but once a seat was put in, you have to be careful. But he said, I have been driving all these months or years, only not years, months, because I just went from India. I've been careful. And what was my body language? Can we just wave to the person in a friendly manner? Can we smile at that person? Can we think of him as a friend? That will change the formula. You don't have to open up and shake his hands. How our body language is also what attracts the danger. I parked in the same parking lot as my student, and she got robbed. twice. Because of the body language, because of the fear that was stored in each and every muscle of hers while walking to the parking lot. We have to trust people. We need to trust people. Does not mean you're going to make them enter your house. That's not what I'm saying. If we don't trust people with our body language, with our facial expression, you will be the target. Why is it? I've been in US with places where it is so dangerous. In the same street, I would walk, and then after 10 minutes, somebody gets robbed by the same two people who would be standing there. We don't realize these things, our energy levels, how we emanate, not just with others, even with the friends and family members, our energy levels will affect others.
Yeah, and you spoke on the higher level. Can you say something about Viveka and how that works?
Yeah.
The difference between.
Yeah, no, Buddhi is a broader term. Viveka is one part of aspect of function of that. Viveka, the discerning power. The other, self-awareness, is also part of Buddhi. Free will is also part of Buddhi. Concentration is also part of Buddhi. All of these are different functions or powers of conscious mind. Yeah, I'm not saying, coming back to your question, that we need to trust everybody, have everybody at home, none of that. But if we lose that basic capacity, human being capacity to love people, to trust people, and be as safe as possible, not being careless, I'm not saying that. Because I have gone through a lot of things in US with discrimination and with the groups of people, white Americans called themselves as dot busters, and they were targeting Indian population. So it's not that I may not have gone through what you have gone through, but I've gone through many different things in US. And I've also felt the same way as you have felt. That's also what I'm saying. It's not that anything, there is no right or wrong. We can be trapped in our own feelings, with our own fear. We will not be able to live life to the fullest extent, to enjoy the things that we have, because nobody is limiting us. It's our own mind. We are limiting ourselves. We are trapping ourselves in our own mind with this fear. So what I'm trying to do is to bring the science behind it. Whenever you feel like that, that fear, that fatigue is because of that anxiety. That anxiety is caused because of the, maybe that's another talk on overcoming anxiety, is how can we quiet down the amygdala? Different rewiring tools for that. And what you talked about, anxiety, fear, panic attacks, they all come under anxiety, including obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. Addiction is not just for some chemical substance or just for technology. We have repetitive thoughts. The same anxiety, negative thoughts, the repetitive thoughts are nothing but addictive thoughts. They've become addiction. This type of addiction we can only overcome through knowledge. Because even if we take the medicine, we cannot stop the triggers. We need to take the medicine to be able to absorb and understand, cognize, but be able to deeply understand the science and knowledge behind why is this happening to me, not for somebody else. Or for me, the other time I was okay. Why this time? We have to question ourselves, understand ourselves. This is all about self-knowledge. And I have not gone really deep into the mind because this topic was different. We go even deeper into the mind and brain, wherein we understand why is this happening. And we will be aware of which part of the brain these thoughts are coming from. Now I need to use a different part of the brain to not suppress, to overcome and put other thoughts. What type of thoughts do I put? This is very empowering because once we understand ourselves and once we understand, irrespective of what others' behavior is, we need to manifest our higher human powers, which is understanding others, loving others, being compassionate. As I said earlier with the 9/11 incident, topic that we took, have we thought about why did this happen? What was happening in the terrorist mind? What led them to kill so many people 21 years back on this day? And as a community, as humanity, we are all responsible for each other's way of our behaviors. I'm talking about the extreme behaviors. We can understand from that. And as humanity, we need to evolve. That we can do when we evolve ourselves at an individual level. As Gandhiji said, you be the change that you want to see in others. We need to be evolving at an individual level so that the whole humanity gets evolved. And that is what is happening. But because we are so afraid, we are so, we have so much anxiety, we don't see so many good things that are happening right here. We want to be in a silo and complain and be in the victim mode. Whereas there are so many, I have seen there are so many organizations that are doing such great work like this center. I have not seen this in US. We have Ramakrishna Center. I heard that there is Divine Life Society. There are so many organizations wherein they teach us how to empower ourselves and how to manifest the higher human qualities. But because we are afraid, we are in a silo because we want to protect ourselves. Let us think about the people at large and let us be the change that we want to see in ourselves so that it will affect everybody else. This is the reason centers are like this. Centers are present for this reason, to how to manifest our divine qualities. This is what Vivekananda says. Each and every person, even the person who hijacked you, has the divine quality, but he does not know how to manifest that. Just like we do not know how to manifest that as soon as we see him. Whether we know it or not, we are all evolving. We are all evolving into better human beings. And individually, we can only do so much. But with the right company, we can do a whole lot more. And this is one of the formats I was talking about. Not necessarily all of this is going to be in a left-brained PowerPoint presentation format. We can run, as we're saying, scientific satsangs or support group meetings, wherein by hearing this and being with the like-minded people and being with people who are trying to improve themselves, trying to grow, trying to evolve, it gives so much power to do things and to work towards the cause. But coming back to that mental fatigue, there are different ways. And usually the negative feelings, which is fear, that's a common, say, fear is the mother of all negative emotions. That is enough to sap our energies. But just knowing this, you will see yourself. You will, if you put that into practice, no, I'm being fearful. Let me come out of it. And then over a period of time, but you have to do this in an effortful way, conscious way, willfully. You will see the difference in the energy levels. Because of the innate negativity bias that we all have as human beings, the negative feelings, negative thoughts, negative emotions are very intense when compared to the positive ones. The more intense it is, we get more tired. Just this knowledge for you is going to be enough. I'm going to be here for another several days. You come back and tell me. I want to see you in person. Put this into practice. This is what I want to see. It is possible. And then you will be able to carry this message to others. I can help you how to carry this message to your loved ones in the family if you're the only one who is attending here. I will train you. That is how much we want us all to evolve together in this center. But great question. I learned. See, I usually would take it up as though it is career, because in US it's all about career. Before coming here, I have not heard one single person talking about recession here. I was in US just before coming to South Africa. Every other person that I met was talking about recession.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Any other questions before I go back? All right, let me finish. We have done all of this, heard all the neuroscience concepts that we need to hear to change our memories. And we know how tough it is, still it is tough because it is automatically happens, the memories get triggered and then it is really hard, everything is hardwired. But from now on, it is going to be different, right? But still, there are going to be times it fails. When all else fails, the most powerful tool and a tool that is needed for each and every person in one's life, not because we're going through crime here. It is until and unless we learn how to forgive, we will not be able to lead a true spiritual life, I can tell you this. If we are on the path of leading a spiritual life, We need to learn to forgive. I'm not talking from a moralistic perspective, again, from a scientific perspective. This is one of the flagship programs of the organization we have come up with in a scientific way. Self-directed neuroplasticity, how to forgive for your long-term health and happiness. Why forgive? One of the things for this, because of the crime we talked about. Without our knowledge, we have acquired the behavior of victimization. Forgiveness helps us to come out of that victim mode. We don't realize, but we are in that victim mode. Until and unless we come out of it, we will not be able to have better lives, I can tell you. Forget about spiritual life. To enjoy even materialistically what we have, we cannot if we are in the victim mode. We think we are stating our experiences and whatever has happened to our loved ones without our knowledge. We don't do this. This is where it's only through knowledge can we come out. Without our knowledge, explaining would have turned into blaming without our knowledge. We can spend our entire life blaming the situation, the circumstances, the people. And I say it is our successes and failures are entirely your own, not depending on the world. Not only successes and failures, but your happiness is your own. Irrespective of the crime, irrespective of the recession, irrespective of the drought, irrespective of what I went through, that 9/11, what we did, we focused on how to heal as a community. How did we have so many interfaith meetings, at least with the people of different religions that we knew? So we need to, it is possible to be focusing on the positive things to be doing so that we come out of the trap of being in the victimized mode. And we ourselves and others are also validating our victim mentality without our knowledge. This is not in any way I'm saying, without our knowledge, we get into this. I'm also sharing this out of experience, my own experience. Only when we come out of that victim mentality can we truly embrace our innate divine nature and to be able to manifest and express that. That's from spiritual terminology, from the scientific terminology, to be evolving into better human beings. We still have so much to offer, both for ourselves and for others. But the way we are offering, we can see that it is being hampered. All of this again is through knowledge and nothing else. So the choice is ours to evolve. We can only evolve if we come out of that victim mentality. Again, these are all you kind of know. Look at this, a reverend talking about it. He says, I overcame my victim mentality so that I could step into the power of my spiritual mastery. He was abused as a child, fell into the victim mode and came out of this, and then only he says that. And we don't even realize we are in that victim mode. we need to come out of it. So, and all else fails, just forgive. I will go through. Yes.
Sorry, okay. Okay, we can come out of victim mentality. We take the example again of the hijacking or the 9/11, because let's just say the perpetrators or the ones that caused the victim, and I'm gonna say it in inverted commas, we're sort of unknown to us. They're not our friends, they're not our family. How do you exercise this feeling of or this, what do I say, concept, or what, I don't know how to describe it, of forgiveness, if it's, say, when you are interacting with people, example, if you're in a family situation, or if you're working in a work situation, you could be a work colleague or a senior who is victimizing you or is always wearing you down. And the moment you go into a meeting, you go in there, oh, Mr. X is going to be there. I'm too scared to open my mouth because he'll shut me down. I can't decide, okay, if I want to get out of victim mentality and tackle the bull by the horns, I must forgive him. He doesn't know I want to forgive him. So how do you deal with it in that? Do you go to him and say, sir, please, let bygones be bygones, and then he'll tell you, just shut up and get away from me? Don't trouble me. So how do you deal? Because these are practical situations we deal with.
We were all laughing because you have such a great way of expressing with so much clarity. That is why, and everybody feels the same way because everybody is going through the same way. I've also gone through that. Trust me, you have a beautiful way of expressing. But you have opened up a whole can of worms here. No, not sorry. You're actually helping many others, honestly. But I cannot answer that right now, but I can give you a solution rather than answering just that question. But there is a huge solution for this. And for that solution, I'm going to revert back to our organizers. This is another flagship program of our organization about forgiveness. We usually do it for 2 days. People who are so serious, they come for 2 days, and we have also done it for 1 day. We have done it for 4 hours. If somebody has gone through some other neuroscience concepts, if you know, then we can do it for 4 hours. This again is so important for each and every person's life. I cannot say anything more than that. Interpersonal relationships, forgiveness, anxiety, and depression. At least depression, only a small percentage of population will go through depression. Whereas anxiety, each and every person will go through anxiety in some stage or other in their lives. And the way we can prevent taking medicines is by going through that, understanding ourselves through knowledge. So I'm going to offer this as solution. You have to talk to our organizers. And even before I leave, it is possible to be able to arrange for this, because I'm going to be ready to do this. I've come only to share, as I said, the knowledge and the joy, because when we learn something new that will help us, not just for something, one little aspect, for the rest of our lives. And not only will it help us, it will, when we share this with others, that is the whole idea, for you to be sharing, you will be able to help many others too. So back to our organizers. So there is a solution. And it is science, which means common. I go back again, commonality. It is common for everybody, not for people who are going through tough times in South Africa, or people who have gone through traumatic injuries or experience. So I forgive. I'll go through these. I've only put quotes. This will, hopefully, this will help you to be convinced how important this is. And it is possible. I will tell you this. It is possible to do that, but not the way you have said it. It is not going to be possible. But it is possible to come out of any experience, even the most. When you attend that workshop, you will understand, you'll go through. So forgiveness is not something we do for other people. They don't have to know what they are doing to us. We have to do this for ourselves so that we can move on in our lives. And forgiveness does not change the past, but it does enlarge our future. Extremely important. So how can we enlarge our future? We can change our own destiny. We can make our own future by being neurosculptors of our own lives. And there is no peace without forgiveness. These are all statements, but in Sanskrit, we call this as idamitham. That means this is it. For everybody, not just for few people. This is it. There is no peace without forgiveness. There is no spiritual life without forgiveness. Yeah. Holding on to a grudge doesn't make us strong. It makes us bitter. And forgiveness doesn't make us weak. It sets us free. Beautiful, isn't it? There is no love without forgiveness. And there is no forgiveness without love. What do we choose? To hold on to the bitterness of our past experience. That is rightly so. Righteous indignation is what we say. Whatever we have gone through in the past, such traumatic experience, you have every right to hate that person. You have every right to be angry. But is that what we want to choose? Do we want to be right or do we want to be happy? Do we want to be right or do we want to learn to love? It's not an occasional act. It becomes an attitude. Forgiveness becomes an attitude. That is when we can live out of without fear. When forgiveness becomes an attitude, we will be able to live without fear. Can we say this? But one after another, when we try and acquire this knowledge in a scientific way, it is possible. It is possible to say, no matter how much it hurts, I'm not saying it won't hurt. It does hurt. That means all it means is the onus is back on us. I have become a better individual, better human being because of that traumatic experience in my life. I should be able to say that. And that is true forgiveness. This is what we will experience after that, whether it is 2 days, 1 day, 4-hour workshop. I'll promise you that. But we have to be ready and to forgive, and we need to be ready to have an open mind. We need to be ready to be evolving, and we need to be ready to lead a true spiritual life. It is possible. This is not by bookish knowledge I'm talking about. Having put this on myself and having helped so many people, if we are lucky, if it is a 2-day, we will be able to hear so many people's lives that have been changed having gone through that workshop.
I think it's sort of forgiveness and saying, okay, it is what it is, and you accept it and move on with your life. For me, it's sort of an overlap or a fine line. Because again, I'll take the work situation. If I am working with, say, a work colleague who has done something bad and detrimental to me, and in one of the quotes, sister, you said, that person doesn't need to know that I've forgiven them. So fine, in my mind, then am I going to say it's forgive or to say, okay, you've done this, maybe you've gone and backbited me and deprived me of a promotion which I really wanted or something. And I think all of us here, when we have a work environment and you work
Yes.
with people, you experience it. You know, the hygies are very
Forgiveness is not justice.
So
What you're
Yeah.
saying, it is not justice. Whatever you need to do to have justice, you need to do. Forgiveness is different. You need to separate out the person from the action.
no,
I'm not saying you cannot take justice. You have to take actions.
No, the justice is fine, but I'm saying, is it not overlapping for me now? If I've had my issues with that person, but I don't want to go on being bitter. And it's not that I necessarily forgave the person and want to become best friends, but I then said to myself, it is what it is, and I move on.
Yeah.
Is that now
It is not forgiveness.
It's not forgiveness.
Well, it depends, because there are so many misconceptions in your explanation. There are many misconceptions that are coming out. That is what we deal with. What is forgiveness? What is not forgiveness? What are the misconceptions? Like what you said just now. He doesn't have to know. I just move on.
Mother, shall I interfere?
Yeah,
if you
please.
need to tell Mother?
Sure.
Okay, Mother, you had a bitter experience, let us assume. With somebody or some person, okay, take that as back now. Now, how many times did it happen?
No, I'm just
No,
giving an
just answer
example.
my question. Mother.
Okay, if you have an
No,
experience.
I'm
of-
just asking how many
Once.
times? Once. Okay, how many times did you relieve it? How many times did you relieve it?
Every time I see the person.
Yeah, who is the real culprit now? Who's punished? If the person only once he troubled you.
Yes.
But now, who has relieved it again and again and again? And
Myself.
punished you yourself? Who is the real culprit? So where is the forgiveness for? Who is the forgiveness for? You have relieved it again and again 1,000 times. So you are the culprit. The person might have harmed you only once. So you are harmed yourself how many times?
Exactly.
So who is to be forgiven now? Where is the forgiving at? Yeah.
You cannot get a better scientific answer, logical answer than that.
Yeah.
But I do understand what you're saying. In your statements, there were many misconceptions about forgiveness. Even if you hold on to that, you won't even be able to forgive yourself. No, may not be for this, for something else. So we do go through in a systematic way. I cannot give you an answer. If you're so particular, as I said, may not be that. When you go through this, then you will see, oh, that person who has hurt me is nothing. I have to forgive myself for everything what I'm thinking or doing for one of my loved ones, or whoever, the person that you live with day in and day out, you need to forgive, whatever it is going to be. It's a process. And we go through a step, which we call that as mindful therapy, so that by answering some of the questions, I only ask you questions, you have to answer that for yourself. You will know what that forgiveness is and why one has to forgive. Again, I go back in science. If your why is not strong enough, you won't be able to forgive. If your why is not strong enough, even if attending the forgiveness workshop, it won't help. Okay. Oh, Desmond Tutu says, without forgiveness, there is no future. The future that we want, that we are dreaming, that we are envisioning, there won't be that future without forgiveness. Right? Now, to conclude, go back to our first few minutes of the slide, what I said about memories. Memories are thoughts. Memories are present thoughts of the past experience. Memories are, feelings. Memories are present feelings of the past experience. And if we have to change, not sometime in the future, we only have to change at that moment when we remember something, at that moment, which would be now, at that moment. And if you need to know more about that power of now, we have those 5-part mindful series. Please refer to our organizers, Dr. Shivani Singh and Dr. Veena Singaram, and they probably have recorded. You'll be able to get that, the power of now. We can only come out of that, change the memories as it is happening. And we talked about this. So powerful, right? Bring it back again. Yes, we know a flame can burn the house down. An unnurtured thought can burn the house down. An unnurtured emotion can burn the house down. In fact, I only knew about this. The next two, this was given by our Swamiji here. It's not just the flame. An unnurtured thought and unnurtured emotion can burn the house down, he says. But we have seen that. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. And nurtured thought, a loving thought, can bring the people together. A nurtured emotion, a loving feeling, can hold the people together. When we change those memories and those memories get transformed, a transformed memory can keep the people together, can build the community together, and can bring nations together, ultimately bringing harmony to all of us. Starting at an individual level, bringing harmony at our thought level, at our speech level, and at our action level, at an individual level, and bringing people together. We are powerful, very powerful. That's what Swami Vivekananda says, right? We are divine beings going through this human experience. Nothing that has been said, nothing that has been done to us can stop our destiny. And that destiny, we have the power to create that destiny. We have the power to create our own future. And that choice is ours. I'm going to end this with this little poem which I call it to an ode to my own mind. This created when we went through the COVID times, during the first wave, we took that as a challenge, 21-day challenge. And then there was so much doubts and animosity that was going on at that time. I made this into a little poem and some guidelines for a meditative experience which followed. But I will just read this poem, that's enough for today. An ode to my mind. Oh, my mind, kindly listen. Oh, my mind, kindly listen. Anger does not cease through anger. Anger does not cease through anger. Hurt does not cease by hurting others, not even at the thought level. It won't stop. Hurt does not cease by hurting others. Frustration does not cease through vexation and irritation. Disappointment does not cease by being dissatisfied. Through love alone do they cease. Through love alone, anger, hurt, frustration, disappointment will cease. Through love alone do they cease, resulting in inward peace and outward compassion and joy. Through love alone do they cease. Through love alone does anger, hurt, disappointment, frustration cease, resulting in inward peace and outward compassion and joy. And this is an eternal law. Thank you.
Thank you, Ushama, and I'm sure that everyone is fully laden with very thought-provoking thoughts and questions. I'm just going to hold some of the questions because we want to just make a little time for our revered Swami Svatma Ramananda to give us a concluding thought on these sessions. You know, we say amongst the devotees, our Maharajas from the Ramakrishna mission in India have very long names and somewhat unpronounceable to us also. So we lovingly colloquialize those names. And you will know also that the USA has a team called the SWAT team, S-W-A-T, which is an acronym for Special Weapons and Tactics. And we're very proud and very revered to have our own Special Weapons and Tactics team in Swami Svatma Ramananda, who besides being an impeccable cook, and Maharaj has given us the blessing of providing the lunch prasad with his own hands today. He's also a very divine singer. And as you have already witnessed, a monk of imperceptible wit. And we look forward to hearing his thoughts that give us some Vedantic philosophy, universal philosophy, no matter what religion you belong to, whether you believe in God or do not believe in God. There's also always some insight to be given from our revered monks. We are very blessed to be one of the few organizations that have a resident monk within the organization. And Maharaj lives here, and it's an open door policy to everyone to visit, to sit with him, to chat with him, and it's something that is welcomed. So I want to please invite our revered Maharaj, our president of the Ramakrishna Center of South Africa, who has recently taken over the reins of the organization. and to give us a few words and thoughts about this session. Right.
ओम स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतार वरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. Om Namo Narayanaaya. Namaskar to all of you. Don't be afraid, I will not take a long lecture to this thing. I'm just concluding with 3 stories, that's all. So the first story which I want to tell you is, there was an old man who had a house. It was very nice and beautiful, and he had 2 or 3 children. Now, many people saw that was a beautiful house and they wanted to buy it. They were ready to pay a lot of money for that. But it was so beautiful, he was so attached to that, he didn't want to sell it. Then one fine day, when he had gone out, he came back to see that that house was on fire. So just imagine what would be the consternation of the tension and the worry and the feeling in his mind when he sees that beautiful house which he had so much of attachment for is on fire. So now he started crying, shouting, rolling on the ground, seeing his house on fire. Nothing could be done. Now one of the sons came running and told, "Father, do not cry. Yesterday, when you were not here, a person came to me. He wanted to buy that house. He offered 3 times the cost. So I sold it for him. It's no more our house." Then suddenly, this person was so much full of tension and worries, and he was crying. He started laughing, smiling, and looking at the house as a witness. No more tears. Tears dried up. Everything stopped. Just a second before, he was so much attached to that. He had pain in that. But the very second, just a thought that it is sold changed the whole scenario. He's looking at that house as somebody's house, and now he's enjoying the fire, the burning of the fire, like all the 1,000 people who are witnessing it. So this attitude of witness, that is one aspect. Now another son came running, "Father, you are laughing, you are smiling, looking at the fire like a witness. Whatever that owner who wanted with that money, sorry, not the owner, the person who bought it, he has just given us the advance. The deal is not completely over. Anytime he can refuse. It's only the advance." Then again he started crying because that became his own house now. Again, after some time, the 3rd son came and told him, "Father, do not worry. The owner, or the person who sold it, he told, I'm a man of word. Whether the house is burnt or not, I have given a word. So I'm going to buy it. I'm going to take it. Do not worry." Again, the tears stopped. See, everything, what we worry and all those things is the thought of all other outside people, the surroundings which has given us the thoughts of the father, mother, teacher, here and there. It's nothing our thought. We're simply suffering because of that. So know that for certain, that attitude of witness there. This is one of the story, how we suffer unnecessarily without any reason. That's one thing. Secondly, I'll take you through another story. This is a common story in India, that the problem of the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Don't know, in other culture and other things, it may be also there. This is very common in India. I don't know whether in South Africa also Indians have this problem. Yeah, okay. So now, what daughter-in-law was newly married to the house. The mother-in-law was very strict. She was angry with her. She loved the husband, so somehow she was managing. She was very angry with the mother-in-law for all the do's and don'ts and that and this and the rules and regulations. Now it came to a point, you know that now we are telling the house situation or the situation in the office, the situation everywhere outside, so much of theft and that and this hijacking. I think she would be also in some sort of trauma and problem in a house, isn't it? Constantly she has to live with the mother-in-law. Now, after so much of tormentation and torture, now she thought, I should kill this mother. So what did she plan? She went to the mama, the mother's brother, younger brother or somebody who was a doctor, and she told all the problems. She told, give me a medicine. Give me that poison which will kill her slowly. I want to kill her. I'm very fed up with it. Okay. Because usually the mamas are very good because they are from the mother's house. They have that affinity towards the children or the siblings of that daughter. He told, okay, I will give you medicine which will kill her very slowly. Nobody will come to know. You take this powder or that particular medicine, add to her. But while you are giving this poison or something slow poison to her, you should never make her know that you hate her or you are angry with her. You should do a lot of service to her. You should make her feel that you are loving her. Then only she will take that medicine, and slowly one fine day, maybe after 6 months or so, she will die. Then all your problems will end. She was very happy. She bought that medicine. Now she has to show that she loves her. So she started feeling, acting that she loves. Sorry for that. So she started feeling now that love and service. She started serving her. She started talking to her with great love and everything. Now the mother-in-law started getting a lot of faith in the daughter-in-law. She gave that medicine with, she started making special dishes and adding this thing in that and coffee, special coffee, everything, adding this medicine every day. 1 month passed, 2 months passed, so much of love between them. Now the mother-in-law also started loving her. Now the daughter-in-law also stopped hating her. They started loving each other. Hatred is gone. Finally, it so happened, she came to know what mistake I have done. She's such a good lady. Now she ran to that mama, that uncle of hers, and told, please, now I really regret what I have done. I want my mother-in-law to leave. We have developed so much of good relationship. In between us, it has developed, so now I don't want to kill her. Please give a medicine by which you can stop her dying. Now nothing can be done now. It's too late. She cried and cried. I don't want to miss her. I don't want to kill her. She's such a great lady. She's very good. We have become too close friends. The mama finally told, the doctor told, don't worry, I have not given you the poison. I knew this. I just acted that I gave you the poison. It was really vitamin tablet. That's Now they became close friends. And they lived very, as you know, the end of the story is they lived happily afterwards. So now see here, just a little acting and feeling of love and service could conquer that mother-in-law. Can't you do that with real service and real feeling? Can't you do that better than that? So you can now understand that act of forgiveness, how much it can change. Okay, the third story, which I will conclude with that story. You all know the story of Prahlada. Many may be not knowing the story of Prahlada. He was a boy of 6 or 7 at that time. You know, many people explained about the pain and other things, the living situation, the robberies, the thing and other things. I think that boy underwent much more stress and strain and pain than what we can imagine. Maybe 10 to the power of 100 you can tell what you are undergoing. That small child of 6 or 7, Prahlada, was tortured by his own father. That too for no mistake of his. He just loved God. He didn't want that he should love that Narayana, God, that's all. That was the cause of the hatred. So he tried to kill him in so many ways. His own child. Can you imagine a bad situation, worse situation than this? His own father torturing, his own people trying to kill him, poison him, and all the things. Finally, you know, because of his love and devotion, the Lord took the form of Narasimha, the lion god, and came and saved him, killed the Asura, the demon, all that story, you know. After that, the Lord, in the form of that Narasimha, he was so angry because his devotee was tortured like that. So now all the gods and goddesses who came there, they couldn't approach him because of the anger. Then they thought Mother Lakshmi may help, the spouse of Narayana. Lakshmi was also afraid to see that Ugra Rupa, that fierce form of the Lord. She too couldn't approach. And they thought, why did this Lord take this fierce form? For the sake of small child. Isn't it? To protect the child, he got angry. He came down to punish with that fierce form. So let us send this child before. Have you seen the image, a scene where the father and mother are fighting each other, and now they're about to come to blows. Now the wife is ready with the ladle that you do the chapati, that she's ready, and the husband is ready with something else. They want to exchange the blows or something. And by the time the small baby of theirs will come crying, crawling, what happens then? The whole situation changes. Both of them will run, they forget about fighting, the anger is gone. Isn't it? They were so angry, about to get into blows. The moment they see the child, it vanishes. They go there and take that baby and see the whole situation changed. How? Through love and forgiveness, everything changed. And now here, when that Lord in that fierce form saw this small child of 6 or 7, Prahlada, coming, making stotra, the divine praise of the Lord, so anger came down. He became so happy. He took that child on the lap, made him sit on the lap. Now he's in that form of the lion man, Narasimha. How will the lion show its love to the young ones, its cub? It licks the body. So this Narasimha licked the body of this child and told, a child, you took so much trouble for me, for the devotion of me. Now ask me some boon. What a boon. You know what is meant by boon? So ask a boon. Do you know that child of 6 or 7? What was the boon asked by that child? We were asked by God to ask some boon, and only one boon. What would we do? We have so much desires, we have so much of wants. So only one boon. What can we do? Then a person was asked by the Lord, please ask a boon, only one boon I can give you. He told, okay, I'm going to ask. He tried to fool the Lord. He told, I want my children and grandchildren to sit on the 7th floor of a big building and eat varieties of dishes in the golden and the silver bowls. So with one boon, he has so many boons. Sitting with children and grandchildren, that means long life. There's so many children and grandchildren sitting on the 7th floor, a lot of property, building to own, the golden bowl, eating varieties of dishes, health, good health, everything he asked in one boon. But this child, the Lord himself is asking, ask me of the boon. And he told, my dear Lord, I don't want any boon. I have got you. What more? I don't have any need. I have got you at more than enough. I love you more than my life. I was ready to sacrifice for you, the Lord. No, you have to ask me the boon. Otherwise, what will the posterity, the next generation tell? He took so much of pain and the Lord didn't give him any reward. So just to give the feeling to those people, we should also approach God. Please ask someone. If you insist, I don't want any boon. That child of 6 or 7 years is telling, if you really want to give me boon, please forgive my father who tortured me. It tortured him to death. So please forgive my father and give him very high place. Then the Lord told, because he was your father, he has already been forgiven and I have given him a higher this thing. Now ask something for yourself. Don't ask for somebody else. And again, when the Lord insisted, ask me a boon, that boy of 6 or 7, Prahlada told, oh Lord, if you really insist me to ask a boon. So many people, so many other demons, they tried to punish me. Somebody pushed me from the cliff of that hill, and somebody tried to beat with a mace and kill me. Somebody tried to poison me. Somebody bought the poisonous snakes and they tried to make the snakes bite me. Somebody put that, that Holika, we celebrate Holika, the demon of that sister. She had the boon that she can, fire will not harm her. She took this baby and sat in the fire to burn that baby, but something different happened. That fire killed her, but this baby was saved because of that great devotion and that goodness of the child. So you all know that story. All those people who tortured me in different way, please forgive all of them. That child who has been tormented and tortured, I think none of you can undergo such pain. And now the Lord knew what is in the heart of the child, but yet he feigned ignorance. The Lord knows everything, He is Sarvagna, He is all-knowing. But even then, he acted as if he is ignorant, and he told, "Oh Prahlada, why did I take this peculiar form? I was in a very high state in Vaikuntha. I took this, neither a man nor a lion, all that, so many things, because just to protect you and to punish the people, the bad people who tortured you. And now, after so much of difficulty, you are telling, forgive all of them. Then I would have not taken this form and come down and all these things. Why did you do that?" Then Prahlada, very innocently, that child told the Lord, "Oh Lord, now somebody tried to kill me, somebody tried to trample me with the elephant, somebody threw the snake, somebody threw me into the water, somebody threw from the cliff, somebody tried to give me poison." Who exists in all their hearts and makes everybody move in this world? Isn't it you, O Lord? There is a saying in Sanskrit, "Tena vina trinamapi na chalati." O Lord, without your will, not even a blade of grass will move. Do you think all this has happened without your will? Without the will of the Lord? Who is the one who resides in the heart of everyone? It's the Lord. So who has inspired all this torture to me? It's you. And if I ask punishment and revenge to all these people, whom will it going to reach it? To you. I love you more than my life. Can I ask punishment for you? That's the reason I'm asking, please forgive everyone. So by forgiving others, you're forgiving yourself, in whom the Lord exists. In everybody, the Lord exists. There is no thing on this earth that there is no Lord. The Lord exists in everybody. So by forgiving others, you're forgiving yourself and you're doing good to others. If that small child can have this attitude of forgiveness, why did he have it? Because he saw the same Lord in everybody. That is the highest dictum of Vedanta. You can't call it unscientific. It is scientific. It's the one consciousness principle which is in everybody. So all this, what we undergo, the pain, why are you born here? Why do you get all those things hijacked? Because it is my action which has perpetrated that, which is called law of karma. What I do, I get back. Nobody can stop it. So now, don't think that as fatalism, but Swami Vivekananda tells, if something which I have done earlier is causing the pain and problem now what I do now can decide your future. So your future is in your hand. So learn to live in the present. Why are you afraid? Why are you so this thing that the boss may do that and this in the workplace, or somebody may hijack and other things? You are unduly worried about your future. It's just imagination. Most of the time, the mother was referring to one of the books. That book was Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. So in that book, he writes, stop worrying and start living. The end of that is, think of the worst thing that can happen, but the worst will never happen. That is the end of it. Think of the worst thing that can happen, the worst will never happen. So likewise, you're just imagining things and you are punishing yourself. In reality, that's not so. Most of the time, thinking of the future with a lot of expectation and too much of desires, you're just worrying and worrying and worrying. Do you know during the pandemic, why during this COVID many people died? It is not because of the virus. It is because of the infodemic. Not infodemic, it is epidemic. This infodemic. What is infodemic? Unnecessarily, the TV, the newspaper, the people caused fear in you of that virus. Many people died out of fear. So now, First of all, if you want to come out of this, stop reading too much of newspapers, stop seeing too much of TV, news and other things. It is just they want to make more money. They will just put fear into you. Take only whatever is necessary for your day-to-day life, that much of news, anything, and don't give your other thing to those things. Give to the higher things, the positive thoughts and the positive feelings. Then you'll see you can overcome this easily. And the example I've given, that wonderful story of Prahalada, if that boy of 6 or 7 could forgive and overcome and be happy by seeing Lord in everybody. So with that wonderful thought of God exists in everybody, seeing God, serve God, seeing God in all the human beings, start serving them, then you can overcome that and you can easily forgive and you can be happy, you can make this world happy and you can be happy. Thank you. Namaste. Om Narayana.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for the Neuroscience 101. Just as a token of appreciation from the clinic to both Ushama, Dr. Bastari and Maharaj, we'd like to present a few token of our affection.
Should I give this to her? This is for me.
Before we depart for lunch, I just want to place a reminder for the various programs that will be taking place. As Ushama mentioned, there is still 2 more online programs in our 5-part series on mindful living. The dates for these are on the 13th and 15th. Most of you should have received it. If you've not, please get in contact with us and we can send you the online Zoom contacts. We do have a bookshop that's available for perusal if you would like to look at the books in the bookshop. And please be reminded that the Ramakrishna Center also celebrates a number of festivals and functions, and we would lovingly like to invite you to the upcoming Navaratri festivals that will be held at the ashram on every evening of Navaratri as well. We would also like to ask to be noted that the Ramakrishna Clinic is involved in a number of philanthropic and humanitarian activities, reaching out to different communities. And we would love to see all of you lend assistance, either in kind or donation as a gift. And if you need to get into contact with us, we would greatly appreciate that. So we hope that you have all enjoyed the sessions. As Ushama has said, that she is here for the next few days. And if you would like to meet with her, please, we can organize and liaise with that. She is here offering her services free of charge, has been doing a number of talks outside of the ashram to various organizations, all out of her seva and devotion. So we greatly appreciate that and love having her with us. And thank you all for being interested. And I hope you are now more elevated than when you came back in. And looking forward, we hope to see you all again. Thank you very much. Om Namo Narayanaya. Lunch is in the same place where you had tea. Please do not leave without lunch. If you have to leave, we'll prepare a lunch pack for you to take home. But the meal has been provided by Revered Maharaj